What up, everybody? It's your boy, the grooming expert. I'm back again with another haircut tutorial for you guys. This is gonna be a quick and easy one, okay? My man has dreads, so you know we keeping it light and simple. You know what I'm saying? Nothing too crazy. All he does is a one all the way around, straight to the top. He does not do any fades besides tapering the neck. And let's go ahead and get started. As you can see right now, we are combing out the canvas, making sure everything is combed down. That's probably the most important part of the haircut, is combing down right around where the dreads separate from the hair you're going to be cutting. And after everything is combed out and separated, you guys want to go ahead and start with that number one guard, clipper all the way closed. Today I'm using my cordless Masters, one of my favorites. And what you want to start doing is taking that number one all the way up, all the way around. So you want to get as close as you can to the dreads without cutting the dreads. Be mindful of that area when you get closer to the dreads. You want to make sure to comb the hair down that's supposed to separate, and trim all that hair down, get it nice and clean. You don't want to leave any dark areas, any long hairs around the dreads. And then with his front lineup, I go ahead and take that same number one guard, still clipper all the way closed, and I'll go ahead and, as you saw, go with the grain on the front lineup to take the hair down. I'm not going against the grain because I want to leave it a little bit darker in that area so that the lineup will come out really sharp and crisp. So as you can see, I'm doing it again, and you want to take the number one guard up against the grain all the way around except for the lineup. You want to go ahead and go with the grain to make sure you leave that hair short but still a little bit dark, to the point where you can have a nice crispy dark line. And once you are done cutting the hair all the way around with that number one, I'm going to go ahead and start on this neck taper. Take our Babyliss Gold FX trimmers and go ahead and bald out that bottom and start our first line. Alright, now I think I skipped a little bit in this part, but basically you want to start first to make your second line with your clipper all the way open. Create your second line, and then we're going to go ahead and close it back and take that corner and kind of buff out that first line with the corner of your clipper. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and mess with that lever a little bit, go halfway and kind of use that corner to still work on that line, and then we'll move on to our half guard. You guys also want to be mindful of any cowlick areas. As you can see, I'm going in like different rotations on his neckline because he has a few cowlicks around there. So if they do have cowlicks in those areas, which a lot of people do have them, you want to make sure you're going against the grain when you're trying to fade out when you're trying to give them a nice clean neck taper. So make sure to pay attention to where the hair growth patterns are going. And as you can see, we got that half guard going up into that number one. We got a clipper all the way closed. We're gonna mess with that lever and kind of blend into that number one. And then once we got that, we'll take the half guard off and go ahead and use that corner and clipper all the way open. And we'll go ahead and use the corner of our clipper and kind of buff out that line in between the half and the half guard. And then we are moving on to the lineup. As you can see, that neck taper is looking lovely. Don't push too hard on the neckline. Use those corners around the ears. And what I like to do when I start my front lineups is start by creating my first line where my line is going to end, and then we'll come back down near the bottom and start our little C curve. But now I have a end point of where I want my line to end. That way you make sure you're not going too high, you're not staying too low, and you know that on both sides your corners will match. You'll go ahead and repeat the process on the opposite side, and then we will go ahead and start on that front line. When you guys are starting that front line up, you guys want to make sure you start from the middle of the head and work your way out. That way you know that it'll be straight and even on both sides. Try to look directly in the front of your client to make sure you have your starting and end point. And you want to go ahead and lightly tap in the middle, moving your way out. Using the whole blade is perfectly fine. Just make sure that you are keeping that nice consistent straight line and your trimmer is not being turned at any point. And once you've got one side done, you want to go ahead and move on to the opposite side and just make sure everything is nice and symmetrical. And then I also like to freehand the front lineup as well. Depending on the hair texture, I'll take my trimmer or my clipper and I will go ahead and lightly go with the grain and trim down any loose hairs that I see sticking up, because sometimes once they leave the chair the next day, they comb their hair and they see a bunch of long hairs hanging over, and we don't want that. We want your client's hairline to last as long as possible, so you want to trim as much hair as possible around that edge up to make sure nothing else is falling over once they leave. And for this client, he likes to have his front lineup slightly enhanced. So as you can see, I have my airbrush gun, I have black hair color in it, and we are going to very lightly spray some along the front hairline to make it look as natural as possible. I always go for as natural as possible unless they say otherwise. And in case you were wondering, I do not do this with every single client. This is only for clients that request it. But it does make the hairline stand out a lot and kind of gives that a nice little pop, and it does last for a few days. So I do like it as well personally. And as you can see, we're putting the finishing touches on with the straight razor. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of this video. If you guys felt like you gained some knowledge from this, please go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this channel to all your friends and family and whoever wants to learn how to cut hair. Thank you so much for watching. This is the final product right here, and I'm out.